Hey guys, this is Tauna, and today we're going to be talking about gold fishing, or a more advanced version of it, because one of the things that, I don't know about you guys, but when I create a deck, I like to test it out before I actually, go and make the purchase and everything. And I think that's a good idea. And, anyone who goes and raw purchases anything without kind of testing out is going to have potential issues where, they spent some money on a card that ends up not doing it for them, or they haven't completed their deck or whatever. So I'm going to bring up a deck here that I'm kind of working on at the moment, just so that way you guys have an idea as to what I'm talking about here. So this is my Karlach Cult of the Absolutist Aristocrat Bonanza deck. So the whole point of this deck is around Karlach and the Cultist of the Absolute background here. So, Rakdos colors here. And then the idea is it's also like a Legends Matter kind of deck here. Now, I've talked about this a little bit in my previous video where I was opening up the packs for OTJ, but there's some OTJ cards in here, and it's hard to know exactly whether I want to go and purchase this deck or what exactly, and what's working and stuff like that. And that's kind of the whole point about gold fishing, is trying to figure out what's working in your deck and what's not working in your deck. One of the best things about it is working at your mana base, because your mana base is something that you could have kind of real issues with, where, you might have cut too many lands, or you find that you're just getting, land flooded. You've got a bit too many in there because you've got ramp in there that you didn't realize was going to be as effective as it is. There's a lot of different things that, you can potentially figure out from gold fishing a deck. Like for example, my Karlach deck, having a look at it, I figured out that one of the amazing cards in it is like this Gimli / Gloin kind of combo. So I know that those cards are going to be really kind of useful with it. The other thing is that when you draw cards and you could figure out, this card here is sitting in my hand and I can't really find a good use for it. And if you can't find a good use for a card, or it's just a card that kind of sits in your hand for too long, or a card that, it ends up costing too much mana for what it ends up kind of doing for your deck. It may even be an amazing card, but then in your deck, it's just not all that great. You can kind of go, maybe that card deserves to be cut then, like say for example, I don't find enough use from say Fake Your Own Death, or Great Train Heist isn't as great in the deck as I thought it was going to. Virtue of Persistence, say I'm finding that I have enough tokens that I'm sacking, that Virtue of Persistence isn't kind of bringing back enough actual creatures for it to be useful. However, Virtue of Persistence is slightly different because you can steal stuff with it as well. Maybe Aggravated Assault, I find that I just don't have, enough mana that I'm finding actual use for it or anything like that. There's a lot of different things that you'll find out from gold fishing a deck, which is what people do, right? What they do is they'll take their deck and they'll draw their hand. And then, there's test things built into a whole bunch of the different kind of deck builders and stuff. You'll draw a hand and you'll be like, okay, so I can play this, and figure that out, and then play through the first kind of few turns to kind of get a feeling for the deck, get a feeling for how you're going with your combos or something like that, if you're getting enough creatures out on the board, or even for your mana base kind of thing, like making sure that okay, I've drawn enough mana, that's good, I'm going pretty well with the decks, and that's kind of really fun thing. And typically people just do that solo. They'll just bring the cards out and they'll just play it by themselves. Nothing that they're versing, just kind of getting a feel for the deck. And that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do, and a lot of people kind of do that. However, I don't think it's the most optimal thing to do. And why do I suggest that? First of all, if you're just doing it kind of solo against nothing at all, you are not kind of, seeing all the interaction on the board, or knowing when you need to have been using your interaction, knowing when you needed to have board wiped, or if you have enough kind of board wipes in the deck, or, if you have enough spot removal in the deck or something like that, which is something that I find that, I find with some of my decks is that I play it a bit and then I realize, look, I'm kind of getting run over a little bit here. I think that even if I had another board wipe, it would have been really nice. to kind of pull off. And you know, this is something that I do with my decks a fair bit. Even when I do an upgrade for a deck, or I'm looking at an upgrade, whether it's going to be one that I'm purchasing or whether it's, you know, using cards that I managed to pull because I got lucky, you know, going kind of testing it, seeing as to how it goes solo, it's really great. Now, I sometimes, you know, do this against other players as well. You know, on the program that I'm going to talk about, but typically before I even get into that, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm a busy person, right? And you know, my pod is, they're busy as well. Like, you know, we don't have enough time to be able to sit down every time one of us brews a new deck and be like, okay, so, you know, what's working? I want to have a deck that I know is going to at least kind of work beforehand and then test it further that way. So what I'm suggesting here, and what I'm going to link to you guys down in the comments and discuss today, is Forge. So Forge is a program that is essentially going to be able to, it has all of the cards kind of, well, not all of them, okay, most cards built into the actual program, and it handles the rules for you. So unlike something like Untapped or Cockatrice or something like that, it actually, you know, when you play a card, it will do what that card does. Sometimes it's a little bit buggy, and you know, with the online version of it, we found that there was a lot more crashes recently than there used to be, which we haven't exactly figured out what's going on. But I'm not talking about, you know, going online or anything. They actually have a built-in AI in it. Now, it's not the most amazing AI. I will say that right off the bat. It is not the most amazing AI. Me and my friends, we've found that stuff like, you know, some command decks will just, once they play Rogue's Passage, they will just use Rogue's Passage for the 4 mana every single turn, and that's obviously not going to be great. However, it is giving you a better idea, in my opinion, of your deck, and, you know, playing against someone rather than, you know, actually, you're not actually playing against someone, you're playing against AI, but playing against, you know, at least having more people kind of, you know, that there's interaction with and stuff like that. So I'll put the link to it down in the description and everything along those lines. But I'll actually put the link to the Forge launcher. Forge launcher is what you should be using to be able to like download and everything like that, because it automatically updates. We found that, you know, we were using the other version of it, which is just Forge directly, but then we were downloading it each time. You know, there was an update, and they update it like a lot. Like, this is like every single day they're updating with bringing in more cards and stuff like that. We found that, you know, once we switched over to the Forge launcher, it's just so much easier because you don't need to re-download everything. So as for like OTJ and stuff like that, as you can see here, this is OTJ. They've got 251 cards of the, you know, they've got 12 cards that aren't implemented yet. Same with OTC, they've started doing those. So there's 11 that have been done, 15 on their way, and then 14 with no status yet, which means no one's, you know, signed themselves to it. And then for like big score, most of them are already in and stuff, which is great because you get to test them out. And big score cards are expensive. Like, well, you know, some of the big scorecards are expensive, like loot the key to everything, for example, like that. That's one that I'm going to have to test a lot. I need to test Omnipath Journey. I do have it there, but I want to know what I can do with it. Sword of Wealth and Power, same. It's going to be an expensive card that would be great to kind of figure out what I can do with it. So I'm going to show you guys. So this is Forge. So the deck editor is a little bit kind of clunky, mostly because it just kind of takes it a little bit. And one thing that I will suggest is when you boot it up and you go to the preferences, go down here to where it has the art. Where is it? There's somewhere around here. Click automatically download missing card art, and then that will automatically just download the card art as you're kind of going, rather than you know, needing to download it all at the same time or anything like that. It just automatically downloads it. So you can see here that I've got my Karlach deck in here. Now, as for like the AI and stuff like that, you can name them and stuff like that. You can technically do like two-headed giant and stuff. And it's got all the precons built in, or most of the precons built in, not obviously the OTJ ones yet, but you know, most of the precons kind of built in here. But then it's also got like, you know, the commander deck, so you can play against your own decks. You've got random commander decks, so it'll like have random decks based on who the commander is. So if you want to play against a Omnath Lucas of Creation deck. You can play against that. Random commander based, card based decks, and then you've got like just like random decks or net based decks. So technically, you can go in and go like, you know, I want to go against what should we look at? Like Commander Tower or something like that, or like, you know, you can bring up some of the like online resources that have deck lists and stuff like that in it, and then you'll be able to kind of pull their deck list to be able to play against them. Now, usually I just play against precons just because it gives me like a good example. I have the Fey Domination one in here because it gives me like a control-ish kind of one. Velociraptor because it gives an aggro kind of one, and then Enduring Enchantments. Those are the three that I typically kind of play against, but I mix it up all the time, like, you know, just whatever I kind of feel like. It is kind of loud as well. So when you first start up, it's going to show you AI cards that the AI is not great with. So you can see here, so over here, it says who's going first and everything like that. This is essentially what the state of the game is currently. You can see the card details as well as the card for whichever cards you kind of hovered over and stuff. And you can kind of make a decision from that. So as you can see here, I've got like, you know, we've got Lava Crawl, we've got Shy Trencher. We've got 3 lands that are all going to enter tapped. Well, Shy Terrace doesn't enter tap, but only taps for colorless. So I'm going to mulligan that. That's a bit better. I also typically kind of look for something that's going to create some goblins or whatever with it. We got a board wipe too, which is nice. So we can go with a red there. It would have been nice to have some lower power creatures here probably, but... And it's pretty simple. Like, you can see that the AI is just playing it through really quickly as well. That's one other thing that you don't have to kind of worry about, as opposed to, like, you know, if you're playing online against somebody, like, for example, an X-Mage or something like that, you're typically going to run into where they can take a little bit longer. Obviously, you'll get more kind of experience with your deck and stuff that way because, you know, you're versing a real person, and they're going to use their interactions better and stuff along those lines. But in this way, like, you kind of... All right, we got a Pitiless Plunderer there. I'm going to do this because I'm going to crack that next turn. We're not going to have anything really on the board for a little bit. I probably should have just mulliganed this one away as well. So that's one other thing, is that you kind of learn... Well, okay. You kind of learn a little bit more about, like, when you should mulligan and stuff like that as well from this. So we got 4 out there. I don't actually think I want to crack the Myriad yet. I'm going to put out Krenko. Alright, so he's just attacking and surveilling. They also will sometimes play their commanders a little bit early, or depending on what they are, sometimes they don't really play their commanders. Like, I find that the Enduring Enchantments one, Akathea, I don't know if I've really seen her actually play her a commander out. So we've got 4, 5... We can start off playing with Karlach now. And then I've got 3/3 here. I probably should have actually tapped that prior to attacking. But yeah, like, okay, I'm not going to go through like a whole game or anything like that with it. Oh, I don't want to attack. And I do want to tap him, create some gobbies. Alright. So yeah, that's kind of the idea. It's pretty simple to use and stuff like that, but I just find that, to me, it is better than goldfishing, which is something that I think is an integral part of the, like, you know, building a deck and everything like that, is testing it out and everything. This dude just keeps attacking me repeatedly, which is annoying. Which, you know, it also kind of, you know, I can see Everyone's kind of ramping up their creatures and everything along those lines. We've got to try and figure out what we can do here. Yeah, let me know down in the comments what you guys think. I hope you guys had a wonderful day, and goodbye.